Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II stood before the notorious Theodosian Wall of Constantinople. It was the 5th of April of 1453. The 21-year-old Sultan was in need of proving himself and had arrived at the Byzantine city at the head of a behemothing force of 80,000 Ottomans determined to conquer it. For this task, Mehmed's force was not only endowed with impressive manpower, but also with a large artillery train of almost 70 bombards, most of which had been forged with the specific objective of bringing Constantinople to its knees. Moreover, the Sultan's ground army operated jointly with a fleet of 110 ships, tasked with blocking any foreign supplies or reinforcements from entering the docks of the city. While the Ottoman army got to work on the siege preparations, the defenders of the city readied their own fortifications. These men were made up of 5,000 Byzantine soldiers, 1,000 Italian mercenaries, and no more than 500 reinforcements from the Pope and the Kingdom of Aragon. The city of Constantinople was ruled by Emperor Constantine XI Palaiologos. The emperor was aided in the defense by the experienced Genoese mercenary Giovanni Giustiniani, who was named as the general commander of the army. Among the other leaders were several relatives of the emperor, as well as a Turk prince, Orhan Çelebi. Beside his infantry, Emperor Constantine also had a slim fleet of 21 ships at his disposal, half of them Greek and the other half from different Italian states, awaiting at the estuary of the Golden Horn. As an additional line of naval defense, the Byzantines had set up a thick metal chain blocking the entry to the Horn. This was an important measure as it shielded the northern wall from the enemy, thus allowing Constantine to allocate the majority of his manpower and resources in the Theodosian Wall. Overall, the Byzantine emperor held command over around 7,000 men and 21 ships, with the defenders being outnumbered 10 to 1. When the camp of the besiegers was set, the power of Mehmed's mighty cannons was unleashed. Despite the devastating impact of the Sultan's artillery, the prolonged reload times and the low accuracy of the bombards granted the defenders the time to repair the damage on the walls before the Ottomans could capitalize on it. For 2 weeks, the Sultan's cannons peppered the Theodosian Wall. During this time span, the Genovese mercenary Giustiniani led 2 sally-outs against the besiegers. The attacks were largely successful, namely in destroying Ottoman artillery, but the human cost for the defenders was too high to make it a regular occurrence. On the 22nd of April, Mehmed ordered the construction of a road of greased logs across Galata on the north side of the Golden Horn and dragged his ships over the hill directly into the estuary, bypassing the chain barrier. This maneuver heavily demoralized the Byzantines, as troops from the Theodosian Wall now had to be sent to man the northern wall, thinning out the line of defense. On the night of 28th April, the 21-ship fleet of the Byzantines attacked the Ottoman ships that had bypassed the chain. After heavy fighting, and despite the use of fire ships by the Byzantines, their 21 ships were sunk. Now that the Theodosian wall was considerably weakened, Mehmed II launched his army full force at the defenders. Niccolò Barbaro, a Venetian eyewitness, described this assault as follows. They found the Turks coming right up under the walls and seeking battle, particularly the Janissaries, and when one or two of them were killed, at once more Turks came and took away the dead ones, without caring how near they came to the city walls. Our men shot at them with guns and crossbows, aiming at the Turk who was carrying away his dead countrymen, and both of them would fall to the ground dead. And then there came other Turks and took them away, none fearing death, but being willing to let 10 of themselves be killed rather than suffer the shame of leaving a single Turkish corpse by the walls. Despite the Ottoman swarm and the weakened state of the defenders, the city walls remained unbreached. After these inconclusive attacks, Mehmed resorted to the mining strategy, and he put his expert Serbian miners to work. The defenders themselves resorted to countermining, and eventually the Sultan's mining tactic was rendered ineffective as well. Mehmed was short on time. Not only was the siege costly, but a Christian relief army could arrive any time. The proud Sultan reluctantly resorted to a surrender offer, but Emperor Constantine answered as follows. As to surrendering the city to you, it is not for me to decide or for anyone else of its citizens. For all of us have reached the mutual decision to die of our own free will, without any regard for our lives. Mehmed II was faced with a siege that didn't seem to end. Time was running out, and some of his counselors urged him to desist and go home. But the young Sultan was in need of a triumph to establish his authority, and he wasn't going to leave empty-handed. He couldn't. So he decided to mount a final assault on the city, launching his army full force upon the defenders. It was all or nothing. As the 28th of May came to an end, the defenders took their positions in their ramparts. They were well rested and aware that the Sultan would throw everything at them that night. Emperor Constantine XI Palaiologos held the middle section of the Theodosian wall along his Byzantine retinue. The Genoese mercenary Giovanni Giustiniani was situated near the Charisian Gate, north of the emperor, and his 700 mercenaries held the Blachanae, the northwesternmost section of the wall. Across the battlements, pretty much the entirety of the Ottoman army took battle order, and the first ranks pushed forward on all sections of the wall. first assault was carried out by the Serbian troops of the Sultan, as well as by Azap skirmishers. When the besiegers reached the walls, gruesome and desperate fighting ensued. The emperor's bodyguard held their section of the wall reasonably well, and the initial horde of Ottomans seemed to be unable to breach the enemy. Behind the light troops of the besiegers came an equally large wave of Turkmen mercenaries. The Italian troops under Giustiniani held up with more difficulties, and the Genoese garrison at the Blachane was hard-pressed. During the fight, Giustiniani was badly wounded by a Turk. Not long after, battered by the overwhelming numbers and with their commander on his deathbed, the Italians at the Blachane retreated towards the docks in an attempt to flee the city. As the Ottomans began pouring through the north of the Theodosian wall, the Sultan committed his last troops to the assault. An elite corps of fresh Janissaries, fully armored and well-trained, who would fall on the tired defenders like a lion upon its prey. The assault of the Janissaries was the last straw that broke the camel's back. The Theodosian wall was breached at several points, and swarms of besiegers entered the city. Constantine's retinue, who had valiantly held their position up until that moment, eventually broke ranks and fled. As the sun came up, waves of Ottomans flooded the city. Constantinople was lost. Emperor Constantine had been dragged away from the walls by his men, but he stood tall among the horror and pronounced the following words: "God forbid that I should live as an emperor without an empire. As my city falls, I will fall with it. Whosoever wishes to escape, let him save himself if he can. And whoever is ready to face death, let him follow me." Then the emperor viciously charged the Ottoman swarm, followed by his closest friends. And thus, the last Roman emperor perished. If you're enjoying the video, it's thanks to our collaboration with Bellum Cinematics, the maker of the battle you're watching right now. We strongly recommend you check out his channel, linked in the description, and while you're at it, subscribe to our own Bellum et Historia. Thank you for your support. With the capture of Constantinople, Mehmed II had acquired the future capital of his kingdom and had proven himself a worthy sultan. The loss of the city was a crippling blow to Christendom, and it exposed the Christian West to a vigorous and aggressive foe in the East. The fall of the Byzantine Empire prompted the beginning of centuries of war between the Christian kingdoms of Europe and the Ottoman Turks.